Hi everybody, Matthew Montoya, Partner Enablement and Training Manager with Constant Contact with another Marketing Minute. I've been fortunate enough in my 6 years at Constant Contact to meet over 8,000 small business and nonprofits. And I've gotten the opportunity to do that in person. And I was charged with teaching them how to use Constant Contact, to continue using Constant Contact, and yes, to sell them Constant Contact. And what today's Marketing Minute is all about is how to sell from the stage, how to use a presentation to get the audience to say yes to ultimately a tool that's going to help them be successful, and more importantly, to use your services to help them be more successful. So let's take a look. My first tip is going to be my most important piece to share with you. It's very important to ask questions. Very important to ask questions for a couple of reasons that I'll lay out here, but I know many of you probably do ask questions to your audience, but it's a big strategic part into getting them to say yes, into understanding the importance of email marketing and the importance of hiring you, if that's your business, to offer your services to help them with their marketing and beyond. So constantly ask questions. You want to persistently ask questions throughout your presentation. Don't worry if you don't get the answer you're looking for. You can continue to kind of prod and lead the group into giving you the kind of answer that you're looking for to make your point. Will need to be constantly prodded back to attention. An adult will start to tune you out within just a few minutes. And so questions is a really valuable tool into engaging the audience, getting their brain back and engaged with you, thinking about what you're saying, and most importantly, answering those questions even if they don't answer them out loud. As I always say, you can't say yes if you don't pay attention during the pitch. So we want that brain engaged, because when you do make your pitch, if they're tuned out, they're not listening to you, and they didn't even understand the importance of what you're pitching. And so we want to constantly keep them engaged. Questions allow ownership of the problem. It allows people to actually start to think about the answer to the question that you posed. And we want them to be thinking. We want them to be thinking consistently, and it allows them to apply the usefulness of the answer that you're giving and of your overall presentation. We want them to constantly be thinking, and we want them to be engaging with you. All right, and beyond just being engaging because it's fun and it's a lively experience, we want them to be engaging and thinking about how what you say will impact their business, their nonprofit, their organization. The brain in any kind of presentation craves activity, and an adult. Next tip is to know your audience. Now, I know that this is probably going to get some eye rolls as, well, of course I want to know my audience, but you really need to do as much research before you present, before you give a session, into understanding the audience. Now, the good news is most of the audience you'd probably speak to are kind of similar in a way, but we want to make sure that we're speaking their language, if you will. Is the room only leads? Are they current Constant Contact customers? Are they new to marketing? Are they marketing professionals? Knowing that will allow you to decide where you're going to take the presentation. Odds are it's probably going to be a mix, and what you want to do is pepper your presentation with a little bit of mixture of both advanced techniques and some basics. One thing I always encourage solution providers is don't assume they know basic things. The importance of, say, putting a link into an email. Many small businesses and nonprofits haven't thought that through. And so something as basic as that, they may even self-identify themselves as a fairly advanced marketer. Odds are, if they're coming to your session, they probably aren't all that advanced. Don't be afraid to go basic occasionally. You may even slough it off by saying, hey, I know all of you know this, but let's just go through the basics. You'll probably get a few people that way. If it's a light group, meaning that if they're all one kind of segment, if they're all one kind of group, try to find an analogy, a story, something that relates to that particular group. So for instance, if it's a real estate group, you might try to find some story that relates to their business and ties email marketing into their business. Avoid alienating groups. Now, I've seen a lot of presenters fall into this trap, and it's actually a really easy trap to fall into. Most presenters, because they're business people, speak business language, and we're talking about customers, and we're talking about leads. But remember, many of your attendees may be nonprofits, and you want to avoid solely using business verbiage if you have a group of nonprofits. If you want to think about Constant Contact's customer mix and the kind of person that would be attracted to your session, odds are you're going to pull in 10, 20, maybe even 50% of nonprofits.
And so by solely using words like lead generation and sales and customer, well, that's not their world. They live in a world of donors and events and volunteers. And so try to pepper your presentations with examples of both and try to use stories and things that will appeal to both. Next tip is to get them to visualize themselves behind the computer, working with Constant Contact, working on growing their lists. We want to use stories to have them imagine themselves growing, having their business grow. The excitement that you have in email marketing can translate to them, and what we want them to do is to start to imagining themselves building this email so simply and using engaging things like pictures, videos, and buttons, getting that list to grow. We want to have them imagine themselves in that situation as often as you can, and I respect that you can't always do this given different scenarios. As often as you can, I highly encourage doing a demonstration, even if it's only 5 minutes or 10 minutes. Showing the product allows them to imagine themselves using Constant Contact, and if you can paint the picture of some best practices and then show the product, it's a winning combination because it does allow them to see how easy it is to use, but more importantly, it allows them to imagine themselves using it. If you have someone impressed with a tip or with the product and they say that out loud, like, that was a great tip, this was worth the whole drive, use that. That is a gift. When somebody says something like that, jump on it. And one thing that I encourage you to do is try to spin that kind of comment into why Constant Contact is better than the competitors. You know, the competitors are sometimes free, sometimes cheap. Without education, cheap or free is neither. And by having somebody go, I had no idea that happened, that's a fantastic tip, what they're giving you is the ability to then turn that comment around and say, well, what would happen to your business if you didn't know that tip? And what'll happen is they start to realize the correlation between education and training and your services and Constant Contact. And we want them to be thinking about that because without knowledge, a free tool, a cheaper tool, is worthless because they're going to go around continuously making mistakes that end up costing them. Now, my go-to when we talk about having people visualize, having them think about their business, my number one tool, and for those of you that have been following these presentations for a while, my marketing minutes or have met me in person, seen my webinars, you know I lean, as far as a common denominator, number one on lists. If you think about it, everyone has a list of some size, right? Even if it's 10 people, odds are they've collected some email addresses. If they've had a list but not used it, well, we wouldn't say this out loud, but it's foolish for them not to do that. And what you want to do is build your presentation around why it's not a great business or nonprofit decision to just sit on a list. If they've used a list, it's good to use best practices in your knowledge and your experience to relay that maybe they didn't use best practices the last time they did that. If they have no list, well, Constant Contact has fantastic built-in tools that will allow them to grow the list. And these tools are often not only fantastic, but come at a price point with our competitors. So it's actually a piece that will allow you to win the room. The room will help you with this. So if the room expresses the fact that they realize that their list has importance and their list has potential value, somebody that doesn't have a list will understand the importance by just their neighbors sitting next to them getting excited about the value of their list. In my opinion, lists are key, and you want to talk about why using that list is going to help their business grow. Now, I don't want to beat a dead horse. If you've seen my presentations before, you know I lean pretty heavy on this concept, but have them calculate the value of their list by multiplying their list size, their average list size, by their average price point. It's really valuable to have somebody sit there with a dollar figure in front of them, understanding that their list has potential value, and if they're not using it, they're not pulling value out of their list. If they're poorly using it, they're not pulling value out of their list. If they tried email marketing but failed, did they use best practices and thus did not, if they didn't use best practices, did they not pull value out of their list? If they don't have a list, they can see that their neighbors have a list values. My next tip is to be upfront with people. You know, asking for a sale is an uncomfortable piece for some people, and I respect that. I understand that. You know, the reality is that we've just been burned by bad salespeople. You know, ultimately offering a product, a tool, a service that somebody actually needs and that will help them succeed, there's no shame in that, right? And what you want to use is education and knowledge and know-how and tips and your experience to relate the fact that what you are saying is valuable and the end result of them getting Constant Contact, or even better, using your services in conjunction with Constant Contact, is going to help them achieve things that they want to achieve, things that they brought into your session wanting to achieve. So occasionally, be upfront. And I use this in different scenarios, but often if I'm in a room full of leads, so if my room is mostly not using Constant Contact, or especially not using email marketing, what I'll say to them is, hey, if you were standing in front of a room of leads, what would you do? And there's usually a couple of giggles, and then they'd say, sell us. And I was like, okay, I will. So that kind of cracks the ice, and it kind of just makes everybody realize that there's nothing wrong in asking for business, that they would do that too. You have a tool that will help their companies, and you should want to share that. As I said just a moment ago, they're coming in with a need, whether they know they have that need or not. They're coming in with a need, and understanding your importance in helping their business grow, there's no shame in that. And be upfront with the fact that you have a tool that will help them succeed. If you're a solution provider that offers services, and that's probably describing most of all of you, make sure that you relate that your services will help them grow, whether that's SEO, whether that's social media, obviously email marketing, whatever it is that you do. Tie that into what you're teaching and make sure they understand that what you have to offer is really valuable and that you and your company's expertise will help them succeed. Often, more often than not, Constant Contact will provide you with a discount for the quarter or for the month. Let them know about that. You know, if you set the stage up where you have a valuable tool, you're sharing valuable information that's going to ultimately pull value out of their list, offering them a discount to get them started is just that little extra kick in the pants to get them to commit. If you've set the stage right and they're excited, you want to get that business right away. Understand that they attended the event for a reason. They showed up for a reason. They didn't just sign up because they like being social, maybe a few, but for the most part, they actually came for a reason. And for that reason, you don't want to shy away from making the sale. They have a need. They came to learn, to grow, and you have the tool to help them do that. They are half sold just by being there. They're half sold just by attending. By showing up in the room, especially if you've used our marketing, etc., to get them in the room in conjunction with yours, they already know the deal. They're half sold. They at least are willing to listen to the pitch. People likely know there's a pitch. They wouldn't come to a free event or even a paid event with Constant Contact's logo in the marketing and your logo in the marketing. There's going to be a pitch. People are smart. What people don't like is bad salespeople. What people don't like is showing up to an hour seminar and it's an hour-long sale. Give real information, give tips, help their business grow, but understand they came knowing that there'd be a pitch. People are generally accepting of a pitch, again, if you surround it with great tips and advice. Remember, they don't have to say yes, right? And that should relieve some pressure for those of you that don't like to sell from the stage, that don't like to be overtly salesy, for lack of a better word. There's no harm in them walking away. They won't help their business grow. They won't help their nonprofit grow, but that's their choice. That's okay. But understanding that they can just say no should relieve you of some pressure. You don't have to get them. It's up to them to connect the dots in the presentation that you laid out and say yes, which is going to be in their best interest. Next tip I suggest is lean into their pain points. Lean into the pain that they're bringing into the room. The odds are they attended because they have some pain, whether they've identified it or not. Most are overworked. Most are underpaid. Most don't have an understanding of tech. Most don't have an understanding of marketing. Many don't respect how impactful good email marketing can be on their bottom line. So by leaning into those pain points, let's say most are overworked. Well, Constant Contact's easy to use. Most are underpaid. Well, Constant Contact's inexpensive for the return of investment that you get. Most don't have an understanding of technology. Well, again, it's easy to use. Most don't have an understanding of marketing. Well, that's where you come in, right? That's where you offer your services, and you certainly at the bare minimum offer them good marketing tips. And as I said, most don't understand that by critically thinking of things like using clickable items in the email, by keeping the email short, by segmenting their list, by doing some best practices, they can get that return on their investment and they can pull that value out of their list. My next tip is to humanize yourself. Now that kind of sounds really weird, right? You're a human, and many of you are probably very personable, loving, great people. But here's what I'm specifically talking about. Self-deprecating yourself in a way. Now, self-deprecation, you have to be really careful because you don't want to appear a fool, but I often use self-deprecation in the sense that I lower myself in some piece of my presentation to let them know that while, yes, I'm an expert, while, yes, I have a lot of information, I've earned that expertise through trial and error. Everybody makes mistakes. I made mistakes, and here's a mistake I made, and here's how it cost my organization. But then I learned, and I started to do this, and I started to do that. If you can start your presentation off with kind of a self-deprecating story about how you might have made mistakes and how you learned to overcome them in terms of marketing or email marketing, now they understand that, oh, you can grow. Oh, you can move up. It allows you to level the playing field. One thing that's very difficult for people to get past is the fact that some expert is telling them things, and that teacher-student relationship is kind of hard for them to break. And so often they'll sit there thinking, well, this person did this, but I can't do this. And so by using a little self-deprecation, what you can do is kind of lower that bar and become an equal, and that's key into helping them grow. Now, I'm not suggesting you don't want to also use your expertise, but just reminding them that that expertise came hard fought is a key way to helping you sell some more business for yourself and Constant Contact account. Think through those audience pain points before the session and find a feature or tool that helped you in that situation, and then tie it to the self-deprecation. And again, while it's important to be the expert in the room, show that self-deprecation. Tell that story of how you grew. It'll help them relate to you. And I want to remind you, if you're not currently a certified Constant Contact solution provider, we do have certification open for everyone. It gives you access to Constant Contact content. We will help promote your event. We'll give you tools to help you promote your event. We even have speaker lead passing that will allow you to, on the list of presenters that we go to whenever a Chamber of Commerce or SCORE or some other organization reaches out to us looking for a presenter. You can find that. I've got this address here, bit.ly/certification tab. You can find out more information on how to become certified and all the steps involved.
So that's just a few of the techniques I employ. I hope to share more with you in the future. Just remember, it's not worth your time to plan an event, drive across town, give a presentation, if you don't feel confident and comfortable in making the ask. Remember, they showed up for a reason. You have a solution that can help their small business and nonprofit grow, and that's Constant Contact and your services. With that, thanks everybody. We'll see you in the next Marketing Minute. Take care.